Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. The Hawks start the season 2-0, beating the Charlotte Hornets in Atlanta tonight, 125-120 in a, guess you could say, a thriller of a game that had a lot of positive things, again, to come out. Obviously, some negative, like every game does, but obviously another good win for the Hawks tonight over a game Charlotte team, which I will give their credit. They got some guys, LaMelo Ball, back and healthy, playing really, really well right now for the team. So we'll give them their shine throughout the pod. But the Hawks tonight were able to get it done. Like I said, 125-120. I appreciate you guys tuning in to Believe in Hawks podcast. Obviously, guys, this is first time watching. Subscribe if you love the Hawks. Like the video if you enjoyed this video as well. Appreciate all the love and support. And also for my audio listeners, leave a rating and review on the podcast so more people can get exposed to Believe in Hawks and have the ability to also hear and have these discussions that we have on this podcast about our beloved Atlanta Hawks. So appreciate all the love from you guys in that regard. But yeah, back to the game. Like I said, this game was a game where if this was last year's team, the result would be different. I believe the result would be different if we did not have the team we currently have constructed. This was a game that you look at the first quarter, you think, oh yeah, Hawks might run away with this. Second quarter, I mean, it was the worst quarter they've had. I mean, the Hawks gave up a 42-point second quarter. Not ideal, of course, but you know, the Hornets got back into the game. LaMelo got hot. Miles Bridges can score. You know, Trae Young, he seems like to be a player. But the Hawks, hung on. And throughout all of it, they hung on. When they made, because last year's team would have a team make a run like this, and eventually at some point, the other team would just make another run and the Hawks could never get back. But this was a game where the Hawks were able to stay ahead. And even in close tie ball games, things of that nature, they were able to make enough plays to win. And that was the biggest thing in this game for the Hawks against Charlotte Hornets tonight, man. So really, really, really happy about what happened. Overall, Hawks tonight as a team, they shot 48% from the field, so almost 50% from the field. They shot more threes, made more threes tonight, almost shooting 40%, 37% from the field. Free throw shooting was an issue last game. They had 38 free throw attempts. This Hawks team, through the first two games, has had nearly 100 free throw attempts through two games. Hold on. Let me make sure I get that right, guys, because I don't want to sound crazy. Let's see here. Because they had 46. So 80-something. They've had 80-something free throws for the first two games. So basically, yeah, nearly almost 100 free throws to the next. Okay, we'll just say 90 free throws to the first two games. So clearly this team's getting to the free throw line. This team is, creating opportunities, getting free points. 13 turnovers tonight, so they were not too, loose with the ball tonight. 25 assists, 9 blocks, active on the defensive boards, 11 steals. So, I mean, this Hawks team, they did a lot of good things in the stat column tonight, which led to the win and led to why they were especially, like I said, in control of this game in the first quarter. Obviously, the big thing that probably hurt them tonight was the rebounding battle. They lost that one pretty bad, 53 rebounds to 39. Hornets had 22 offensive rebounds. They had a lot of second chance points tonight, and that is what ultimately probably kept them in this game. If the Hawks could cut down the offensive rebounds, Hawks may have won this way more comfortably than they did. But so that's obviously something that they will have to harp on, look at the film going into their next game. So, that is that with that situation. But overall tonight, like I said, some good things happen. Let's go ahead and get into the players. And let's talk about our leading man tonight, Trae Young. 38, 8, and 10. Led the Hawks in points, tied in most rebounds, and obviously led in assists tonight. Vintage Trae game, as some people called it. I mean, at the end of the day, this is what you expect from your star. This is what you expect from your guy. This is what you expect from your franchise. Listen, there's some shots that, I'm sure people didn't like tonight. Sure, of course. But I also say this. You also understand something. Trae believes he can make every shot he takes. And even if a shot we don't like, He can make the shot. Like, that's the thing. He can make the shot. So, like, it's hard to tell a guy, even though you can make the shot, don't take the shot. Like, and like I said, as long as it doesn't cost us in certain situations, I mean, you kind of live and die. Every superstar has something that you may not care for or think is a bad habit. And, but they do so much positive that you kind of work through it. And in Trae's situation, I think, tonight, especially with him playing 41 minutes, obviously playing more minutes also because Vic Krejci was in foul trouble tonight. So his backup point guard was not as available as they'd like him to be. But also that's just a product of, the offense obviously is much better when he's on the floor, which makes sense. But I mean, Trae, the one thing, like I said, with this team is that this is supposed to be a more cohesive team. This is supposed to be a more, a team that aligns better with each other's skill sets and roles. And I think that's why you're seeing Trae kind of go back to him. With DeJounte, it was kind of one of those things where you're having to think about keeping him involved in the game, but at the same time, trying to figure out where do you pick your spots. It's easier to pick your spots when you're the main guy like he is, because he can kind of focus on playmaking and getting his teammates involved. But then he can have a moment where he's like, all right, it's time for me to, try to get like 10, 15 points this quarter. And he could do that because at the end of the day, he controls the ball every play. With DeJounte here, he knew he kind of had to give up some of that responsibility, and that sometimes would take him out of his rhythm but he's also like, I mean, if DeJounte can do it, then I guess DeJounte can do it. And I think, just overall, even though he had a good season last year, I think that impacted him a little bit, where I feel like this year, what you're seeing is that, he understands his role. He understands, like, listen, I have to be really good, or I have to be good. Like, what you expect from me for us to win games, Trae's going to have to go back to getting 25 to 30 a night. Luckily, he's had 30 points plus through the first 2 games and almost had a 40 ball. And, that's going to be what, gets us to the next point, gets us where we need to go. So, overall, I think obviously there's things you can do better. But, I mean, even defensively, I mean, I feel like Trae, from what I've seen with my eyes, I feel like Trae has shown a lot of good things defensively. Active hands, willing to defend, willing to guard, just getting some steals. I mean, he had 4 steals tonight. So you could see he was active, with his hands. I mean, that's something, creating those turnovers, being impactful in different ways. It's the example I'm going to make with Dyson later. It's not going to be just him shutting you down and just saying mano a mano, you can't beat me. It's opportunisticness. It's its speed. It's its quickness. I always remember when they talked about Quinn saying what he can do defensively, and Quinn telling him, listen, you're a quick guard. Use your speed. You're not going to sit here and just overwhelm people physically, but you have speed. You have quickness. Use that to your advantage on the defensive end. And he's now translating that into turnovers to steals. And so I think, you're seeing Trae kind of do everything. We're hearing the two-way Trae coming back, again this season. So it's really encouraging to see from him, because he's a leader, and you could see his maturity. You could see just how it's just different. And he even mentioned it. I mean, how Bali, well, now FanDuel, talked about, had interviews with the guys, and they kind of mentioned, like, he was kind of like, I just feel like the energy is different this year compared to any team we've had. I mean, he specifically said the last few years, but he said just really any team. Like the energy is different. And I think a lot of people, if you're watching the Hawks, you feel that. You feel the energy is different. It doesn't feel the same. And I think there is a lot of optimism and excitement in the air with this team because of it. Because it's almost like you're watching, I guess, a baby grow. Like, you see this team newly reshaped. Don't really know what what this team's going to be. Remember, coming into this year, a lot of people were unsure, what are the Hawks going to be? And right now, the first 2 games, you see some positives that you're like, I really like, and there's negatives there that you wish that could change. But you definitely see the team in a way where you're excited for the journey. I've talked about this if you've been listening to me on my YouTube for a while. I've talked about the journey. Every season is a journey. For any sport, your team goes through a journey. And we have a journey that we're going to go on through this 82 game stretch. And, as a fan, you kind of decide, is this a journey I care about? Is this a journey I want to invest myself into? Is this a journey that I'm going to enjoy? Or am I going to hate this journey and not want to watch this team? And last year, you remember last year, guys? And some of you may have been saying it. Team's not fun. I don't like watching the Hawks. The Hawks aren't fun. This team, even from preseason, you're hearing the Hawks are fun. I want to watch this team. I feel like this team is more like you feel better about just saying, I want to watch the Hawks tonight. Because you don't feel like you're like, oh man, I got to go through this depressing game of watching my team. Like, you don't want to come into it as a fan. Like, I'm depressed to watch my team play. Like, now I feel like there's an excitement. And so, before going off on that, like I said, Trae had a big nice night, big. We also got to talk about my guy, Dyson Daniels, man. Hold up. Not going to curse. Dyson Daniels. That man, he's been great. And he dealt with foul trouble tonight. He had 5 fouls tonight. So he was in foul trouble, only played 24 minutes. Had a career high in points in 24 minutes. 18 tonight, 8 of 10 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3, 2 steals. You could just see the defensive impact that Dyson brings to this team. You don't understand how much of an impact he is bringing to this Hawks team. For my Hawks old heads that watch this podcast or listen to it, you probably know some guys who maybe have made a defensive impact like this on the Hawks in their history. But for a lot of my newer fans or people who are maybe, obviously maybe 2000s babies, whatever, you may not know or remember a guy defensively that's just like, man, he's a dog. Like, man, he really is shifting the defensive culture. Dyson is going to be a part of that shift defensively for this team. That mindset. He's going to be part of all of that. And just what he does, the effort, just his head, like the fact he's able to tip so many passes. It feels like you go past Dyson, and that's the worst case scenario going past him because he'll poke it out your hands. It's great hands. You could just see his IQ when he plays basketball. Like you always hear it a lot nowadays with players. Like a lot of players in the game are dumb. Like a lot of teams are dumb. Like teams don't play smart, And the players aren't smart. And it feels like Dyson from a basketball perspective, he's just smart. Because the thing is he does the other things and then he gets rewarded. Like offensively, I said during the preseason, Dyson's not going to sit here like the traditional offensive player, cross you up and shoot in your face. That's not his game. He is a guy who will cut. He's dry. He's aggressive. He drives to the paint. He will create opportunities. He gives himself wide. He takes wide open threes and he tries to take layups. This man's not trying to do anything extra. He's not trying to be this superhero offensively. He's just taking what the defense gives him and he's making great opportunity out of it, which is exactly what you want to see from him. You don't have to force it. That's not what you got to do. Just be yourself. Play well. Do your thing. So, Dyson, like I said, man, y'all have talked about it. Y'all know Dyson has been fantastic for this team. I asked people because I couldn't watch the game live about what happened. And so many people were in my comments mentioning Dyson Daniels. It's just his impact on this team. Dyson so far, 16.5 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, almost 4 steals, and 2 blocks a game. That literally shows you like the impact he is having because he's doing everything. And he is looking like every performance he has like this just makes it look like that DeJounte trade that felt so lopsided may feel like, I don't know, guys, we might have gotten a steal in this draft. Not the draft, in this trade. And if that happened, that only benefits the Hawks. Only benefits the Hawks. So big shout out to Dyson Daniels tonight, man. Really, really great performance. Still great defense. And honestly, just a perfect fit next to Trae. Perfect fit next to Trae. And that's a part of the cohesion, the fit of the team that I've mentioned multiple times. That improvement. DeAndre Hunter tonight, 24 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. I mean, he had a really good game tonight. He was a part of that first quarter lead. He was active. You know, someone said tonight that one of the most impressive things about his game wasn't, the huge. It was the fact that he was passing, boxing out, and playing within the flow of the game that really stood out. Because one thing I think sometimes when we watch them, especially with DeAndre, is that we sometimes feel like the way they want to play, DeAndre doesn't fit completely, or it feels like he's out of sorts, or he doesn't fit the fast pace, or things like that. And tonight was an example of him fitting it or playing well enough to fit with what they're doing. And it was for, I mean, he was out there getting offensive rebounds and putbacks and cutting to the lane. And I like it when DeAndre's aggressive like that because he's a big, strong guy. At the end of the day, DeAndre has some advantages that he can take advantage of. He just has to take advantage of them. And he said, I don't think these guys on the Hornets can really guard me, so I'm going to attack them. And he attacked them, and the Hornets didn't have that much of an answer. And he was a big part of why they had so much success in this game. So, I think DeAndre, and I was happy to see people give DeAndre his props tonight because he was active tonight. And, this is why he starts. And I'm not about to say this to take a shot at Rishi, but Rishi hasn't been great in the first 2 games. But and the thing is, Rishi is 19, won't turn 20 till April of next year. Like, the man just needs to grow and learn and go through it. Some people feel like he's not playing a lot of minutes. The man's playing like 18 minutes a night. I mean, he's playing significant time. Plus, tonight he had to play a bit of a different role because of the foul trouble with Vic Krejci. But, what you saw tonight is why DeAndre is the starter. Because he can do that. Like, at the end of the day, we could get frustrated with what he doesn't do sometimes, but when he does do what he can do, he plays well. And I don't know why we're so eager to just get rid of it so much. Listen, at some point, his tenure probably will come to an end here in Atlanta. But we don't have to rush it. And then, we don't have to rush everything, because you got to make sure that you have an option ready to go as soon as he leaves. And Rishi growing into that. He isn't that at this very second in time as much as we want him to be. So, really good on DeAndre Hunter for playing well tonight, man. Really, really good. Really, really happy that he came out with the performance he came out with. Let's talk about Jalen Johnson. So, obviously, Jalen, 16, 7, 3, 4, 15 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, had 9 free throws tonight, made 7, including 2 clutch ones at the end of the game. Even with all of that, you think about that stat line and think, Jalen didn't have a good game tonight. Jalen had the highest plus minus of all the Hawks. And that may be a little confusing to some people. How does he have the highest plus minus, but the stat line is not, mind-popping, right? So the big thing with Jalen that I hear a lot of people talk about is they feel like for the first 2 games, he's pressing a little bit. People say he's nervous. Just, is it the contract? Is he just trying too hard? Whatever, right? For me, when I think about Jalen, from what I've seen, and tonight as well, I think that it could be those things. But also at the same time, he's also, again, his role last year is not the same role he has this year. And so he's having to adapt and he's having to adjust. And he's learning. He's growing. That's part of the process. Like, the thing is, we've still been good offensive, Jalen not having great games, which is good. But at some point, we're going to need him. And maybe Oklahoma City on Sunday will be the game for him. But, we'll need Jalen. And I'm not really worried about him, if I'm completely honest with you. Some people are worried about him. I'm not. I am not worried at all about Jalen Johnson. I think Jalen will be just fine. because Jalen can impact the games in different ways that sometimes we just get so focused on the scoring, the number of points, that we don't think about other things, which leads to why he has the highest plus minus on the floor. So the Hawks are still playing their best when he is on the floor. So, I'm not too worried. I just think, there's some things obviously that you could do to help Jalen. Quinn could obviously run some stuff that maybe puts him in a good position, gives him some good looks, creates some good opportunities for him. But also, Jalen, just like I said, just getting more confident in himself and just and trusting the work. You hear that a lot from athletes, and sometimes they're trainers. You got to trust the work. Trust what you worked on this offseason. Trust everything that you did and believe that it will pay off for you. And when you do that and you can play like yourself and play loose, you will see the Jalen Johnson that we all think he can be. So, I'm not particularly too concerned, like I said, about his performances. We'll see as games go on how he adapts, but I'm not that worried realistically. I think Jalen will be fine. I really do think that. So we'll have to keep an eye on it, of course, but Jalen Johnson. He had to play 41. He's playing buku minutes. Because him and Trae are like they're the guys, so they need him. So, looking at the center position, the other center tonight was great, so to say. Obviously, Clint had a higher plus minus, but again, it's one of those things where Okongwu played more minutes than him. Okongwu hit a 3, had 8 rebounds, Clint got 7. Clint, obviously, Okongwu's not going to do what he did last game every game, but I still think some people see within the flow of the offense, it just works better with Okongwu, even though he's a smaller player. Somebody made a good point. They were like, but in the past, especially in games where rebounding is an issue, like tonight, it was a big issue. They usually would go to Clint to Capella because of that. But the fact they still play Okongwu more might tell you something. Like, is that a belief in because of the way they want to play? They know Okongwu's better for it. And so even if they're playing a team that's bigger than them, they know we may need to take the size decrease because we feel like we can improve in other areas if we go ahead and play Okongwu. Maybe so. It's something to keep an eye on for sure, because that's basically he started the season playing more than he closed the game, and he's basically playing more than Clint in both games. And like I said, is this potentially a ramp up to him potentially starting this year? Maybe. We don't know that until Quinn makes that call. But clearly he's showing you, I am not afraid to put the trust into him if that's what it calls for. And I think that just shows great confidence in Okongwu. Because like I said, we know what Clint is. There's nothing Clint's going to do that's going to change it. Okongwu's really the wild card at the center position for us. And taking advantage of matchups that he has and his skill set and things of that nature. Because if we could do that, I think that puts him in a great position. Like I said, I'll talk about a little bit earlier. Richeche, like I said, didn't look great tonight. Growing, learning, first pick, expectations come with that. But Hawks, like I said, are not a normal team with a first pick. And he'll continue to grow. I think sometimes I still feel like at times he rushes some things. I don't, and I've said this too. The preseason sometimes can fool you because remember, people aren't running their stuff. It's more basic sets and basic things that a lot of teams already do or what you do in your system. So it's not something that the team has never seen before. It gives you sometimes these illusions of what you think you're going to get. And I think for Richeche, he's going against teams that now are attacking him a certain way or trying to guard him a certain way. But at the same time, he also has gotten some good looks in these first 2 games and has just not knocked them down. And so that's something that he'll continue to work on, I'm sure. He'll continue to go to work in the gym, continue to get some shots up. and try to continue to grow. Every game is a lesson. Every game is an opportunity for him to gain knowledge, look at film, and say, okay, how can I be better the next game? Tonight, he was placed in an opportunity for crazy foul trouble, having to basically guard at the point guard position. And he struggled a little bit. I mean, let's not sit here and lie about that. LaMelo cooked him at times. Like, and LaMelo's a really good player. Like people forget LaMelo is good when he's healthy. And you saw that tonight. He had a duel with Trae Young for a reason. 9 threes, ridiculous shots too. But, Rishi, he's a guy who, learning. I mean, now that he's had that experience guarding LaMelo Ball, if he's ever asked to guard LaMelo again, maybe that's something he can learn from and say, what could I do better next time I guard him to help me be a better defender in that situation? Because you may think, oh, yeah, he has the height, but there's other things that go into defense such as height. And so, you kind of have to go through some baptism by fire, which I think he is. And again, you expect him to grow from that. It's part of his journey along with the team's journey. And so, I'm not. The thing about these games is I don't really think we need Rishi to be incredible. Like, I think that's why they even put him in the position they put him in right now. They're basically said to Rishi, we don't need you to be Superman. Don't feel like as the number 1 overall pick, you have to be this incredible player, this insane player, this immaculate player for us. Like, that's not what we need from you. We just need you to do your job and play your role. Do what we ask, grow throughout the season, and your opportunities will increase, and we think you will improve as a player, which will lead to just better overall results across the board. And so, some people may be worried about Rishi. I'm not. No reason to panic. No reason to panic, guys. We have a young team. We always got to keep that in mind. Because one thing I can say about this team is the Hawks still haven't played a great game yet. This team could still play so much better than they played tonight. And that's always good that you can sit there and say, yeah, this team could be so much better than they were tonight. Because that means there's a lot of potential there. Like I said, this team has a higher ceiling than some people, give credit to. So, like I said, Vic Krejci got foul trouble tonight. Did what he could. 15 minutes. Not really much to say about it. Played some big minutes also. Like I said, he's a guy they trust. And even though he may not give you killer stat lines, it's just you could see his connectivity and his defense on the floor and how important that is to what they're trying to do. And then obviously, before the game, Bogdanovich was ruled out with an injury. We don't know how long he'll be out. Quinn apparently never specified how long he'd be out, so we don't know what is going on with Bogey and how long he's going to be sitting out. But, Harrison Matthews stepped in tonight, had 8 points off the bench. Obviously, what's going to be interesting moving forward is the offense of the Hawks, because you're technically down one of your better scorers of the basketball and Bogey. So it'll be interesting to see how they continue to make up the offense without him being there. And obviously, again, Bogey is going, and I mentioned this in my last episode, Bogey's going to be the one that takes the most time to get up to speed. And this injury will only continue to add to that because he's not going to be playing. So he'll be the one who's having to adapt the most this season to this team, but just because he hasn't been able to play with them a lot and he's dealing with injuries and things of that nature. So, Garrison, luckily, we know what he is. He is a lethal three-point shooter. He comes in here, you want him to give you about 2 to 4 threes a game. Just be a threat. Be a threat off the three-point line. You do that, you make those shots, we are still effective. We still can do something. But that's why I've also said this Hawks team is they're better equipped to handle injuries this year than they were a year ago. And I think you're seeing that kind of early through the season. So really, really interesting and stuff. But like I said, really good performance tonight. I guess Charlotte, like I said, rebounding obviously was the big issue tonight. Killed on the boards. Got to, hopefully that we know the Hawks are not a big team from that perspective. But you hope that maybe, this team, you play them again, you know, the Hornets may beat the Hawks once, maybe twice this year. Like the Hornets are a good team. We won tonight with no Brandon Miller, and they almost beat us. Like they got some guys on Charlotte, and Charles Lee is a good head coach. So I think he's going to get them right in Charlotte, and you're going to see this Charlotte team ascend. And so we gotta. I would not look at Charlotte as some bottom feeder team like some people may. Charlotte, I think is going to be real. And like I said, I ain't saying they're gonna be like a finals team or anything like that. I'm just saying they're gonna probably. I could see them being a play-in team, competing for play-in, and potentially having a winning record this year. I really could see that with Charlotte. The biggest thing for them is with they don't have the habits right now, and I think that's something that Charles Lee is working on with them right now. It's just trying to develop those habits, and if he can get those habits down, he feels like this team probably could take off because there's a lot of talent on this roster. Like they have guys that you core pieces that you're like, yeah, this is a core, a pretty good one at that. So be interesting to see what happens when the Hawks and Charlotte meet up again when they play next time. But like I said, overall, Hawks win tonight. Really, really good win. 2-0 to start the season. Got a big one on Sunday. Early season test against Oklahoma City, a team that some people think could make the finals this year. Obviously, coming off a really good win against Denver. I believe they also played tonight. I don't know forgot who they played, but I believe they won as well. So, good team. Good team, Oklahoma City. Hawks have played them tough, though, the last couple of seasons. So it'll be interesting to see how they play on Sunday night in Oklahoma City road game. So one of two matchups that they have with them this year. So we will definitely be locked in for that one. I will be able to be on top of that and tweet during the game. So if you want to be able to keep up with me, follow me on Twitter, Brycey_2K, BRICEY_2K. And you can keep up with my takes as that game goes on, as the Hawks try to go for 3-0 on this season and try to really kind of get you believing in what they are trying to be this season and maybe turn some heads in the NBA. But like I said, big performances from Trae, Dyson, DeAndre, really big performances from those guys to lead us to a win over the Charlotte Hornets. But I believe that's all I got for you guys. It's your boy Bryce Lewis. See you next time.